I'm Akil. I'm a sophomore, and I'm an aerospace engineering major. I'm from Gaithersburg, Maryland, Montgomery County, and I had some VEX robotics experience in high school dealing with Project Lead the Way. I guess I'd say my main motivation for this volunteer experience is to kind of get a perspective from the teaching side and get to know myself better as I teach the kids.
Hey, I'm Vivek, and I'm a sophomore aerospace engineering major, and I'm from Rockville, Maryland, in Montgomery County. My past robotics experience was with First Robotics in high school. I did First Tech Challenge for 4 years and did a lot of mechanics for them. And then also, I'm here to volunteer because I want to learn the different learning styles of a bunch of students and figure out how best I can teach them.
Hi, I'm Greg. I'm a sophomore aerospace engineering major. I have some experience with VEX robotics. I was on my high school team for all 4 years of high school, and I did Lego robotics in middle school. I'm from Monroe, Connecticut, which is a small town about an hour and a half from New York City. And my motivation to volunteer is that throughout my entire time on my robotics team, I always had a lot of mentors and volunteers that would come in and help us out. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to give back and volunteer and mentor kids that are younger than me trying to learn robotics.
I'm most looking forward to teaching the students how they can effectively compete in the First Tech Challenge competition. I remember having lots of fun when I did this competition in high school, and I hope that they will be just as excited to build robots and come up with efficient design solutions as I was. I'm also excited to learn the different creative methods that students will use to generate ideas for the competition, as compared to how I create or designs for the competitions in the past.
One thing that I anticipate being challenging about teaching the students is gaining their respect and credibility. Seeing as though we are only a few years older than them, it may be difficult to get them to listen to us as if we were a teacher. Also, it may be hard to get the students to have a functional robot by the time they need to go to their first competition. Even though we have a few months, that isn't much time to brainstorm, prototype, build, and test a robot.
I'm most excited about meeting the new students and seeing them grow as they progress through their robotics team challenge. I think it will be a very rewarding experience once we get to the end and see how much progress they've made from the start, from their beginning brainstorm sessions to the point where they can execute the mission. I'm also excited to see my own capabilities and see how well I can push myself to better teach and assist the students. So our space consists of a classroom with multiple large work tables. Throughout the classroom, there are a variety of dispersed engineering materials and tools, including a 3D printer and previous robots that have already been built. There is also a computer lab in the back where students will code. I'd say there are usually about 10 to 15 students on a typical day. Recently, however, more have been showing up because we have an important deadline approaching. The club consists of mainly Hispanic and Black students with very few white students. I'd say this is mostly representative of the entire school's demographics, as Hispanics and Blacks account for more than 85% of the school's population. Asian and whites only make up 8% of the population. On a weekly basis, my fellow peer mentors and I will prepare some sort of lesson plan for about 10 to 15 minutes, teaching the students about engineering disciplines and etiquette. We then break off into teams and facilitate brainstorming and building sessions. Our students are doing fairly well understanding the design process. However, it is obvious that we need more time with them in order to meet our competition deadline so that the robot can be finished before Thanksgiving. This is probably one of our major challenges, I'd say.
Our main lesson plan challenge is that we aren't really sure what we need to teach until we get to the school. Unlike the LEGO Robotics groups, we are catering to a team that is doing this for a whole year and preparing for competitions. We also don't have a constant number of students coming every week, so it is hard to account for this in our lesson plans. As far as communication challenges go, most of our students are freshmen and don't understand many engineering and math concepts. While we are teaching them, they get confused by our terminology for some parts or tools.
So at the schools, we didn't really have sufficient tools or materials to sustain 3 functioning robotics teams. There are some teams that have all the parts that they need for the season, but other teams still need to order some parts and wait for them, which will take a long time. Also, some of the tools, such as Allen wrenches, are damaged and need to be replaced. The most challenging part of our experience at the school is the time constraint. We need to construct an entire competition-worthy robot in a few weeks to meet the students. This includes teaching the students about robotic mechanical concepts, and then also guiding them to build a functional robot before Thanksgiving.
Noticed some correlations between what we learned in class and our site visits. One of the first things I noticed on our first day was how relatively low funded our school seemed compared to other robotics programs that I've heard of. That, their robotics program seems a lot more funded, well funded compared to what I saw on the first day. We did learn in class how the socioeconomic status of a specific region correlates to how much funding the schools around the area gets. And this is very apparent to me, as I do know that PG County isn't the most well off in terms of the socioeconomic status, and it's apparent in the schools. We also learned that in class of how women have always been less dominant in STEM related fields compared to men. And I could see this at our school club meetings and how most of the students are actually boys compared to girls. But it is nice to see that the girls are actually more diligent and sincere in their work, which kind of interests me.
As far as representation goes at Parkdale, most of the students are Hispanic and African American. That's different than the usual demographic that you see in STEM of Asian and white males. And our group is also mostly male, but there are a significant number of girls. And like Akil said, we have found that a lot of the girls are actually more actively involved in the content that we're teaching, and they're more likely to return week to week than the guys. And although Parkdale's robotics program isn't necessarily the most advanced, there's still value in it, providing an opportunity for students to learn STEM concepts outside of the classroom, because that's not something that all high schools provide.
In terms of our teacher-to-student relationship, we found that students became a lot more receptive to what we taught them over time. So it took them a while to actually figure out what we were teaching them, but once they started building, they picked it up very quickly. Also, we started out with lecture-type presentations rather than hands-on building type of lessons, and they probably didn't like that as much as actually hands-on building, so they started becoming more receptive to us and what we taught them when we started actually creating robots. And for our generation, or the student generation of creativity and curiosity, we found that all of the teams actually created different designs for their mechanisms. So, for example, one team had a Mecan drivetrain, and the other one had a holonomic one. They also had different types of intake and scoring mechanisms, and they all had lots of different designs when they started in the brainstorming phase.
So some key takeaways that we had from this course, from teaching the students, was that I'm actually good at adapting to the students because it's not very easy to teach students a topic such as building like robots out of metal from scratch very easily from the first time that you try to come up with a lesson plan. But the group and I have been able to effectively find different methods and strategies to teach the students what we needed to teach them for the competition. But it took a couple of different tries and different strategies, and we learned that we're really good at adapting to those different strategies.
In terms of meeting my initial goals and motivations, although my team and my other peers' teams, none of the teams completed the task of having the fully developed robot before Thanksgiving. But I personally definitely feel more confident in my leadership and interpersonal skills, working all semester with these students, and Vivek and Greg definitely developed these skills. And I was also able to attain a new perspective on Maryland's education system. And honestly, these were some of the targets of my goal with this entire experience. So I'd say I'm satisfied.
I think this course is very valuable in providing insight into the importance of STEM education and how its opportunity is not equally provided amongst various groups.
What is good, guys? It's Akil here, and we are currently on our way to Parkdale High School for the Grand Challenge. Vivek, any thoughts on how the students might perform today?
Probably really well. We're gonna see how their robots go. I think it's gonna go well.
Yeah. Alex, any input?
I have good hopes for this group.
Good
They
hopes,
seem
good
like
hopes.
Seem like an intelligent group.
Right. We've been working hard all semester, so hopefully we get something. All right. So we just made it to Parkdale, and I'm gonna get a quick word with our teacher right here.
Oh, yeah.
Tim, I'm vlogging today. What do you?
Involved in any of you?
How are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Pretty good. Doing great. Doing great. So we made it to Parkdale High School, and we have our teams working on their robots right now. This team is led by Greg. Greg, could you explain this design a little bit?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this group's building a holonomic drive. So it's basically a square chassis with the wheels at 45-degree angles.
Yeah.
And this allows for them to be able to spin faster and then also be able to strafe back and forth in either direction, allowing for greater maneuverability. The only downside is that it's a little harder to construct. It can be a little bit slower, but
We're hopeful. All right, we're here with Vivek's group. Vivek, how's your team doing?
Pretty good. I'm trying to mount some slides onto here.
Nice. So what would you guys say was one thing you guys learned this semester? Or at least so far?
I don't know, but so far I have learned how to build things better, like, well, for one, the lifts.
Right.
I didn't know how to do that before, but I now know how to, so that's a great idea.
I didn't know what any of these pieces were called. I knew what a screwdriver was and I knew what a hammer was.
Nice. Well, now you know, right? That's good. All right, Jaden. So what do we have here?
So this is a cloth from a previous year that was ridiculous.
Right.
And I'm just looking at it and trying to analyze how the gears are lined and
Just trying to mimic it, right? Right. Yeah. So what's your what would you say your favorite part about this being in this club is?
My favorite part of being in this club is just putting the robots together. It's really, really fun.
Yeah. Just the whole design process. Yeah. Got it.
It's like this. This is what I wanted to try out.
Toggle power equals.
It's not gonna pull in because.
Pull it in.
Nice. So we're currently ending with
even a
our
little
last
bit
day.
in terms of your whole entire process. We wish you the best of luck in your build season, and then especially in competition. Keep building, keep writing everything down in your engineering notebooks, like I hope you guys
It's been a
are.
good semester.
And best of luck.
Totally, yeah.
See you guys. Good luck.
Thank you.
Then you left